leaders have faced in the Oval Office, but clear differences between him and Trump do remain. The CEO of Mercedes-Benz Group has proposed a potential trade agreement in which the US car exports could enter Europe duty-free in exchange for waivers on the same number of European vehicles going the other way. Now, speaking to German magazine Spiegel, Ola Kalenia said he had put suggestions forward for talks between the two sides and that such a deal could serve as the basis for other industries. The EU is reportedly set to revamp its trade negotiation team for talks with the states. That's according to Reuters. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen plans to add close aides to handle political issues following US complaints.
Let's welcome Julius van der Laar, a political strategist at Van der Laar Campaigning. Julius, thanks for being with us. Really looking forward to this conversation. Let me pick up with how Merz's conversation with President Trump is being received in Germany. Our reporter based in Frankfurt said earlier on the program that Merz's performance is being characterized as a success in Germany. What was your take?
Yeah, I would say it was a home run or a hole-in-one. Friedrich Merz went over to Washington in order to, of course, sort of smoothen out the relationship between Germany and the U.S. Of course, Donald Trump had been criticizing Angela Merkel, and he was not particularly keen on German politics. But Friedrich Merz went over, and I think he had a hard burden in front of him. There was, of course, the worry here in Germany that he would get the Zelensky treatment. And, of course, that didn't pan out. So I think the optics, everything that came out of that meeting yesterday was received very well over here in Germany.
It's interesting you say that. I mean, very fair point that he avoided a worst case scenario. He didn't get the ambush that the South African leader or that Zelensky got in the Oval Office. But what did he actually achieve?
Well, we don't exactly know what was discussed behind closed doors yet. You just mentioned the trade deal. And of course, Germany is worried about the 50% tariff that was being slapped on Europe. So, of course, there was negotiations happening in that realm. But I think what Friedrich Merz got across is that he hopes that the U.S. president will continue to support Ukraine. Again, what we've seen happening over the last weekend in Ukraine with the massive drone attack, I think gave the whole situation a momentum. And I think Friedrich Merz picked up on that, also saying that today is D-Day, or the anniversary of the D-Day. And he said, you know, the United States played a great role in, of course, freeing Europe from the Nazi regime back then. And so that he's hoping that Donald Trump will pick up the realm and say, you know, we're going to get engaged again and help Europe become free of dictatorship.
Julius, good morning to you. It's Karen jumping in. Politico had a terrific piece where they're talking about the tripwires that Merz needed to steer clear of, and one of them, of course, being the support from the Trump administration for the far-right anti-immigration AFD. And we talk about the support really predominantly coming from Elon Musk at the same time where the Musk-Trump relationship just imploded on the world stage as Merz was there. How do we think about the AFD, the far-right of politics, and what that means on the back of this meeting between Merz and Trump?
I think that is a situation where everyone was bracing for impact. Those 45 minutes in the Oval Office when Friedrich Merz sat across from Donald Trump, and everyone was just sort of anticipating that one question would be asked, hey, what about the comments J.D. Vance made at the Munich Security Conference earlier this year where he said, well, freedom of speech at least is to somewhat or to some extent limited in Germany, and that some reporter would ask, what about the AfD, and should you really prevent the AfD from continuing in politics in Germany? That question was never asked. And so I think Friedrich Merz was actually the big winner of the feud that was taking place, or the unwinding of the relationship between Donald Trump and Elon Musk taking place right there over Twitter as this conversation between Merz and Trump unfolded.
Somewhat of a gift. One of the areas where the Germans have been trying to make some mileage through these one-on-one conversations is clearly around the auto sector. And we've had some suggestion through from Mercedes that maybe it's an offer to waiver some of the duties on US cars for similar treatment on European cars. But by volume, does this even work? Are German cars still in danger here, even with some sort of waiver?
Well, I don't have the exact numbers when it comes to the deficit in front of me, how many cars are imported and exported. But I think it's clear that more German cars, and most importantly, the German car manufacturers, are more reliant on the U.S. market, you know, to purchase German BMWs or Mercedes-Benz or Volkswagen and so on. So I think that is one of the key arguments that Donald Trump always made during the campaign, saying, well, they're ripping us off. They're happy to export their Mercedes, but they're not picking up our Chevys. So I think bringing that proposal is is at least one good step and sort of sending the signal to Trump that there's at least some room for negotiations.
Julius, I know you're focused on Germany right now and the political situation there, but you've got ample experience working in the U.S. You worked with President Obama, his winning campaigns back in 2008 and 2012. So let me get your view on what we heard from Elon Musk yesterday. He floated the possibility that he could look to start a third party, an alternative to the Democrats and the Republicans in the U.S. Number one, is this, do you think this is actually going to happen? And number two, do you think that he could successfully actually launch a third-party competitor?
Well, American politics, let's say, there's always been two parties. Several have tried to launch a third-party movement, I think with very limited success. Now, of course, Elon Musk is different in the sense that he's got the financial resources, that he's got the following. I believe it's about 220 million on X, people that he can reach. And I think the poll yesterday also suggested that there's at least some support. But when you look at his numbers, his approval rating, it went down all the way. 70% of Americans are dissatisfied with Elon Musk. His negative approvals went through the roof over the last couple of days, or 120, 130 days, however long he's been in office. So I don't think he is going to be the ideal messenger for that type of party. But again, there is some momentum. And if you look at the numbers from Democrats and Republicans, I think there are at least a lot of Americans who are saying politics, the way it's working right now, is not how we can move forward. So I think he's tapping into something. I just don't think he's going to be the right messenger for that.
Julius, if we switch focus back to the domestic economy in Germany, even though we've seen Merz with some wins on the international stage, he's still got a torturous path to try and enact some of these big policy initiatives around defence and infrastructure. What obstacles do you see in the way from here, given that there's no caution in the trade around defence? We've got triple-digit gains in some of those big German defence names. What could the potential obstacles be?
Well, the implementation, the money is there. Merz made sure that with the last government, he actually got a bill passed in order to have the necessary funds. But the big question is, can he ramp up production? Can he actually get the horsepowers on the street, as we say in Germany? So there is a coalition. He's got a majority. It's a slim one. And the Social Democrats, the governing coalition, is, of course, not completely in line and in lockstep. And there can be a feud within that grand coalition that they mapped out. But overall, I think right now, the first 30 days for Merz have been going particularly well. There have been no stumbles, no mistakes so far. I think the meeting yesterday in the Oval Office gave him some momentum on top of that. So now I think it just comes down to whether he's able to implement his policies and whether he's going to stay clear of any mistakes that he might be prone to.
Julius, the conundrum here is that as we were discussing, Merz needs to somehow fight the AfD, the far right, and immigration very much at the heart of some of that discussion. Yet Germany does have a skill shortage, and as it's trying to ramp up capacity in these areas, it's going to need workers to do that. How does it cross the obstacles of cracking down on immigration, being seen to be tough on migration, yet also trying to bring in more workers to meet all the capacity plans that it has at this stage?
Well, I think what Friedrich Merz would be saying if he were sitting here right now, he'd say, well, we got to bring in the right people. We got to bring in immigrants who are able to work, who want to join our system, but we can't be open and have open borders for everyone coming in. And I think that's starting to become German consensus. Now, again, the migrant crisis took place in 2015, so it's been about 10 years, different ways of addressing it. And the AfD, of course, has gained, close to 20%, 22, 23% in some of the polling. Friedrich Merz, when he started running for chancellor, he said, I'm going to halve the AfD. Obviously, he has not managed to do that. So it is one of the issues that's on the forefront of the minds of German voters. But again, we need migration. We need skilled labor in this country when it comes to manufacturing, when it comes to the car industry, when it comes to defense. But again, there's still a sense, and a growing sense in Germany, that borders can't be open. You can't have everyone just pouring in.
Julius, it's been fascinating. Thank you very much for joining us and lending your expertise.
So
Julius van der Laar, who is political strategist van der Laar Campaigning. Switzerland is expected to impose strict new capital rules on its lenders, with potentially significant ramifications for UBS.